Stop wasting your time trying to get people to like you. You learn to stand on your own when you really know yourself. In this video, you'll learn why being alone on purpose, not out of loneliness, is the key to developing strong focus, emotional control, and drawing the appropriate people into your life. A lot of people are afraid of being alone. The truth is that this is the only way to get strong, calm, and unstoppable. Pay close attention. This is the road that few people are brave enough to travel, but everyone who becomes great follows it. Number 1. Solitude reveals the truth about you. When you're always with other people, you learn to act in ways that get you approval, affirmation, or acceptance. You wear masks so often that you forget what you look like. But being alone takes those masks off. When you're by yourself, you can't hide from yourself. You start to see your patterns, worries, and insecurities in their most honest form. Epictetus said, "If you want to get better, be okay with being seen as foolish and stupid." That's what being alone requires, the ability to leave the crowd and confront the hard truths about yourself. Most individuals are afraid of being alone because they are afraid of what it will show them. But those who put up with it get smarter. When you sit quietly, you start to hear the cacophony in your head. You know how much energy you've wasted, trying to make other people happy or get away from yourself. The fog is slowly lifting. You begin to realize your true wants, your true weaknesses, and your true purpose. Being alone doesn't just show you who you are, it also provides you the ability to change it. You start to realize that other people's expectations have shaped who you are. You know what you want, how to act, what to believe, and even who to be. You made your personality fit in with people who weren't supposed to be there. You've changed your tone to make individuals who never cared to understand you happy. And you've been hiding your misery beneath smiles since being honest seemed weak. But when loneliness really enters your life, all those false ideas start to break down. You see how much of your life was acting. You sought every compliment, attempted to win every debate, and tried to fit into every group because you were afraid of being alone. And then in that quiet, you encounter the real you. The version that doesn't need praise or validation, the one that's been buried behind layers of noise and pressure. At first it seems unusual and even scary since you start to hear thoughts you've been ignoring for years. At first the calm isn't serene, it's loud. It echoes with your fears, your doubts, and your regrets, but that's the point. Being alone doesn't make you feel better. It makes you face things. It makes you face what you've been putting off. Marcus Aurelius frequently articulated in his meditations the imperative to eschew reliance on the opinions of others, instead advocating for trust in one's own rational intellect. He said to himself, "You have control over your mind, not over what happens outside. Know this, and you will be strong." That's the main idea of solitude, getting back the power you've given to the world. When you're by yourself, no one else's thoughts are bothering you. You don't need anyone's approval to be free. You just have your thoughts, your deeds, and your truth remaining. Epictetus stated, "If you want to be good, you have to first think you're bad." It's not about guilt, it's about being honest. Being alone makes you be brutally honest. While you're always busy, you don't see your ego, jealousy, laziness, or hypocrisy. These are all parts of yourself that you don't see while you're busy. It's hard to say how often you've become your own worst enemy, but you may start to modify it once you see it clearly. You can replace lies with discipline, ignorance with knowledge, and reactions with thoughtfulness. Seneca once said, "Those who travel all the time are changing places, not their minds." You can run away from people, jobs, and relationships, but until you face yourself, you'll keep making the same mistakes. Being alone offers you a chance to stop rushing. It allows you time to think about your habits and question, why am I like this? What am I trying to avoid? What type of person do I really want to be? At first, it seems like you've lost everything. There is no more noise or diversions, and all of a sudden you are left with your raw self, unpolished, unsure, and exposed. But suddenly something wonderful starts to happen. The silence that used to seem weighty now feels pure. The worry that used to fill your head starts to go away. Your thoughts, which were all over the place, start to come together. The fog of confusion clears, and for the first time you can see the shape of the person you want to be. You start to see your true hobbies, the ones that make you feel alive, not the ones you pretended to like to fit in. You know what your flaws are, but instead of rejecting them, you accept them. You begin to work on them discreetly, calmly, and regularly. You start to get what Marcus Aurelius meant when he stated, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." When you're alone, you see yourself and learn from yourself. Not only does it show your weaknesses, but it also shows your potential. It takes away everything that isn't real, leaving only what is real. And if you stay in that area long enough, something deep happens. You stop being afraid of being alone, because you know that being alone was never the issue. The issue sprang from a lack of self-awareness. When you know yourself, being alone goes from being lonely to being strong. You don't need to be among people all the time anymore. You cease asking for attention. You don't chase people anymore. Instead, you naturally draw them to you because your energy becomes calm, steady, and self-contained. You rebuild your inner self while you are alone. You learn to like being alone, trust your own thoughts, and listen to your gut. You stop reacting to things and start living on purpose. You don't follow the mob anymore, you follow your purpose. And that's when you really get it. Being alone doesn't only show you who you are, it also shows you who you could be. It is the quiet classroom where your intellect grows, your spirit grows, and your power is born. Number 2, mastery requires isolation. No one ever becomes great while being distracted all the time. The one thing that all great philosophers, artists, warriors, and emperors have in common was the bravery to be alone. Seneca said, "We don't have a short time to live. We waste a lot of it. The time you spend looking for temporary company could be the same time that makes you into something great." To really master something, whether it's your art, your thinking, or your emotions, you need to spend a lot of time alone on purpose. Marcus Aurelius observed, "There is no place more peaceful and free of interruptions than your own soul." This suggests that the strongest place for you to be safe is inside yourself. You don't need tranquility from the outside world when you can find it within yourself. You stop reacting and start making things when you are alone. You stop running away from yourself and start improving yourself. Being alone isn't empty. It's a forge. Your power comes from the time you spend alone. You start to think profoundly, move with purpose, and act with strength that no one else can match. People who are afraid of being alone are governed by the world. People who are okay with being alone have power over themselves, and eventually the world will conform to them. You begin to realize that being great doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from being alone. The most brilliant brains in history didn't just happen. They took time apart from the cacophony to create something amazing in themselves. Socrates wandered about Athens not to get praise but to get answers. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations while he was at war, alone in his tent, thinking about discipline, virtue, and death. Seneca was exiled for years, and during that time he turned his loneliness into philosophy that still guides us now. They all knew one thing: to be the best, you have to give up something. You need to be willing to give up comfort for progress, noise for focus, and companionship for concentration. You can't be great if you're always surrounded by things that get in the way. Mastery is a solitary endeavor, as it requires complete attention. Neither partial nor sporadic, but total. Epictetus advised his students, "No great thing is made quickly," and he was right. Growth isn't something that happens all at once. It's a lengthy, planned, and sometimes painful process. You completely enter that process when you cut yourself apart from others. You begin by learning how to regulate your thoughts, which means learning how to control your urges, quiet your doubts, and push through resistance. You begin to control your feelings and learn how to respond with reason instead of reaction. After a while, you start to get really good at your profession, whether it's writing, leading, making art, running a business, or thinking. Your training ground is being alone. You build up your mental strength and emotional clarity there. It's where you work on your focus till you can't be distracted anymore. The hours spent in quiet repetition, reflection, and discipline start to add up, and that's when change happens. You stop letting chance decide how you live and start making plans for how you want to live. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And that's the current curse: being busy but not getting anything done, being linked to everyone but not to yourself. Being alone breaks that spell. It makes you pick one item and put all of your energy into it. You know that mastering something is what leads to growth. not doing a lot of things at once. Marcus Aurelius did what modern thinkers today call deep work. Every day he found time to be still in the middle of all the noise. Time to reflect, write, and go back to himself. He was the emperor of an empire, yet he never allowed the empire control his thoughts. That's the kind of mastery that being alone offers you. The ability to regulate your inner state, no matter what happens outside. You notice something change inside when you start to consciously like being alone. The restlessness goes away. The necessity for validation is no longer there. Your intellect gets sharper. Your thoughts go deeper. You stop wasting time talking about yourself and start showing what you can do with results. The noise that used to bother you is no longer important. When handled appropriately, being alone may give you power. It offers you what the Stoics called ataraxia, which is a quiet and steadfast focus. You don't freak out when things are loud anymore since your mind is calm. You don't chase after chances anymore because you're too busy making things better. You don't want attention anymore since you've learned to recognize yourself. Epictetus said that a man who wants to be free must be able to control himself. And that's what being alone teaches you. How to control yourself. The skill of focusing your energies on what matters most and ignoring everything else. People who are afraid of being alone will always be slaves to distractions. But those who master it become dangerous, not in violence but in their presence. They become the kind of people who can stay calm in the middle of chaos and outsmart and outlast anyone, since their strength doesn't come from other people. That's the paradox. Being alone could look like being withdrawn, yet it's really getting ready. You pull away from the world, not to get away from it, but to get above it. You can only navigate through noise with authority if you've mastered yourself in stillness. So spend some time alone to improve your thoughts, your skills, and your self-control. Let being alone make you stronger, until you are someone whose peace and focus cannot be shattered. People will ultimately notice, because it's difficult to disguise mastery. Number 3. Solitude builds emotional control. You can't be free if you can't control your emotions. And you can't manage your emotions if you're not alone. Every sound, face, word, and notification in the world we live in makes us feel something. When someone disrespects you, you get furious. When someone ignores you, you become anxious. When someone succeeds, you get jealous. When others admire you, you get proud. But the truth is that all of these are chains. Strings that you can't see that make you dance to the beat of other forces. Being alone cuts those strings. It takes away the noise, the eyes, and the expectations until there is no one left to impress or defend yourself against. Just you and your thoughts. And that's where control starts. Epictetus said, "What matters is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it." This fundamental reality is only obvious when you're alone. When you're always around other people, you respond right away. You talk before you think. You do things before you think, and you fight before you understand. Being alone makes you move more slowly. It lets you see how your mind works. Why did that hurt me? What made me feel jealous? Why do I want attention? You begin to understand how your emotions work when you're alone. You learn what makes them happen, what keeps them going, and what calms them down. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who had to rule over an empire, knew this very well. He often went off by himself and wrote in his journal, which we now call meditations. He didn't mean for anyone else to hear what he said. They were just reminders to himself when he was angry, scared, or tired. He wrote, "You have control over your mind, not the things that happen outside of it. If you understand this, you will discover strength." The most powerful man on earth had to remind himself that his actual power came from within. The core of Stoicism is self-control by thinking about things and thinking about things when alone. Seneca frequently cautioned Lucilius in his letters about the perils of incessant social interaction. He said, "Everywhere means nowhere. A person who spends all their time traveling abroad ends up with a lot of acquaintances, but no pals." Seneca wasn't only talking about travel. He was warning against a mind that is always looking forth and never inward. He used solitude to get back to himself, figure out what he wanted, control his urges, and find serenity again. Being alone doesn't imply you despise others. It indicates you don't rely on them to keep your emotions in check. You start to see that other people aren't to blame for your problems. They just show you what's already wrong with you. A calm person doesn't lose their cool when someone insults them. They know that the insult speaks more about the other person than it does about them. An intelligent man doesn't get envious when someone else accomplishes well. He knows that jealousy only grows in a mind that has lost its own way. Your feelings start to show their true colors when you spend a lot of time alone. Anger, which used to feel strong, now looks like a symptom of weakness, the mind's inability to keep calm. When you address your fears head-on, they start to lose their power. Sadness, instead of being something you want to avoid, becomes a silent teacher that shows you what really important. Cleanthes, who followed Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, said that a disciplined mind is one that moves in harmony with nature. Being alone lets you get back to that balance. As the cacophony subsides, you start to notice the rhythm of your thoughts, your breathing, and the silent pulse of your body. You stop acting like an animal that is motivated by instinct and start acting like a philosopher who is guided by reason. The Stoics thought apatheia, or a state of peaceful detachment from emotional turbulence, was important. It doesn't mean not feeling anything. It means deciding how you feel. It's the ability to say, "This event doesn't have power over me. It's my answer." And you can only build that strength when you're alone long enough to figure out what you want. Seneca said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." When you're alone, you finally become somewhere, fully present in your own body. You don't look for things to do, people to talk to, or people to be with all the time. You start to realize that other people don't give you peace. You do. You can be alone and fully aware of who you are and how you feel. You become emotionally untouchable when you learn to be alone. You can be in the middle of pandemonium and still be calm inside. You can be cool even when someone insults you. You can lose everything and still be okay, because you've trained your feelings in silence. You've fought your demons by yourself and learned how to keep them in check. You don't learn how to regulate your emotions in conflicts, relationships, or crowds. You learn how to do it when you're alone with your thoughts. Being alone isn't a way to get away from life. It's a way to get ready for it. It's where you learn to face the world without losing yourself, refine your mind, and build your heart. Marcus Aurelius said, "There is no better place for a man to find peace than in his own soul." The Stoics say that being alone is not empty, it is powerful. It's when your feelings stop controlling you and you start controlling them. It's the conclusion of chaos and the start of order inside. Number 4, use your solitude to build and evolve. People are afraid of being alone because they don't know how to do it. People think that being alone equals being lonely. But the truth is that isolation is the best classroom life can ever provide you. It's where you stop running from yourself and start constructing yourself. But most individuals waste that time. They fill the silence with noise, like swiping through their phones, talking about nothing and cheap entertainment. They think that being distracted is the same as resting. They don't know that every second they spend running away from their own thoughts is a second taken away from their own potential. Seneca once remarked, "We suffer more in our minds than in real life." He was telling us that most of our troubles are only in our heads. Being alone brings that out. You start to recognize that your concerns, doubts, and worries aren't genuine things when you sit quietly with yourself. They're only projections. They are ghosts of your own thoughts. And when you meet them head-on, they quit bothering you. You learn that your mind may be your enemy if you don't control it, but it can also be your best weapon if you do. The point of being alone is not to go away from it all, but to grow. It's your own place to train for greatness. The Stoics called this ascesis, which means disciplined practice. Epictetus, who was born a slave yet went on to become one of the greatest thinkers of all time, lived by this idea every day. He thought that being alone was the point at which philosophy stopped being an idea and became a way of life. "Don't explain your philosophy," he said. "Be it." You can be who you want to be without anyone else judging or applauding you. Think about it. Every brilliant person in history, from Marcus Aurelius to Leonardo da Vinci to Nietzsche to modern inventors, had one thing in common. They used being alone to shape their ideas. Great brains build themselves in the stillness. Marcus Aurelius, while he was in charge of the Roman Empire, would go to his room to write letters to himself instead of to other people. He wrote about rage, self-control, death, and self-discipline. Meditations, the book that still leads millions, emerged from those works that were never meant to be published. His loneliness became his legacy. Your intellect gets sharper while you're alone, since there are no distractions to dull it. Instead of just responding, you start to think thoroughly. Instead of rushing through things, you start to plan what you're going to do. Being alone lets you think clearly and question yourself, what am I doing with my life? And is this really what I want? Most individuals never have to answer these questions because they are too busy running away from quiet. But the brave do, and that's how they get stronger. Use your alone time as a workshop, a holy place where you can improve your mind, body, and character. Get up early and work out. Strength builds discipline, and discipline builds confidence. Read deeply, not simply to learn, but to gain insight. Read what the Stoics, philosophers, warriors, and thinkers who found power in quiet wrote. Write, even if it's just for you. Writing helps you organize the mess in your head. You'll be able to see your behaviors, worries, and tendencies. And you can modify them once you can see them. Do some meditation, sit with your ideas, and learn to see them come and go. You have power over your mind, not over things that happen outside, remarked Marcus Aurelius. If you understand this, you will discover strength. You learn to govern your mind, which is the only thing that really belongs to you in solitude. The nice thing about being alone is that no one can see what you're doing, but everyone will see the consequences. While others are trying to get attention, you're working on getting better. You live change while they talk about it. While others look for comfort, you get stronger. The difference between those who talk about potential and people who live up to it is solitude. Seneca said, "The mind has the power to be unbeatable. Solitude prepares the mind to be unbreakable." The world can't shake you anymore when you learn to stand strong on your own. You are no longer a slave to fear, comparison, or the need for approval. You learn to make things while you're calm, not when you're stressed. Being alone makes time move forward. It makes silence clear. It makes normal people special. Use it. Don't waste it. While others are becoming lost in noise, you'll be creating something real, purpose, strength, and mastery. And one day, when you come out of your shell, they won't recognize you. The world that didn't care about you will stop and look, not because you pleaded for attention, but because you can't be ignored. You've made something strong in silence, and now your presence will speak louder than any words ever could. Number 5. Solitude prepares you for meaningful relationships. The ironic thing about being alone is that it doesn't keep you from being close to other people. It makes you able to connect with them more deeply. A lot of people are afraid of being alone because they assume it means being cut off from others or being lonely. But being alone isn't a wall. It's a base. It's the place where you come to know yourself so well that when you meet other people, you bring clarity instead of uncertainty and serenity instead of mayhem. Your relationships start to change as you spend time getting to know yourself better. You quit following people around just to get away from your own silence. You cease filling the emotional void with people all the time. You don't hold on to other people out of dread of being alone anymore, because being alone has already taught you that you can handle things on your own. You stop needing people and start picking them. That decision alters everything. Musonius Rufus, often known as the Roman Socrates, thought that all human relationships, including friendships, partnerships, and even love, should be based on virtue rather than need. He said that when two individuals are together, their connection should make both of them better, not worse. You start to get this fact when you've been alone for a while. You know that a successful relationship isn't based on one person needing the other. It's based on two whole people following the same route with respect and a shared goal. Seneca stated, "Be friends with people who will make you a better person." This is the same thing, he said. Welcome those who you can help. This is what being alone teaches you, to be careful with your energies. You learn to preserve your peace fiercely when you're alone and realize how much it costs. You quit putting up with those who bring noise into your calm, drama into your focus, or negativity into your quiet. You know that not everyone should have access to your energy, and that's not being arrogant, it's being smart. Marcus Aurelius also got this equilibrium. Even though he had advisors, soldiers, and citizens all around him asking for his attention, he often wrote on how important it was to get back to himself. He stated, "The soul takes on the color of its thoughts." You clean up such thoughts while you're alone. You are more careful about who you let into your space, because you know that every relationship leaves a mark, and only people who make you feel better are worth remaining close. You become emotionally stable after spending enough time alone. You don't let transitory feelings, flattery, or deception get to you anymore. You become the calm in the storm, the person who thinks before they act instead of reacting right away. Your presence in conversations is important because you are aware of it. Before you say anything, people can feel your enthusiasm. Your quiet is no longer awkward, it is strong. When you speak, your words are well thought out and have meaning. Epictetus once remarked, "Be quiet most of the time, and when you do speak, only say what you need to say and in as few words as possible." Oh, this discipline of speech and constraint originates in solitude. You learn how much energy you wasted trying to explain, defend, or prove yourself during those calm times. You don't need validation anymore when you learn to be alone. You don't need other people to make you feel whole anymore. You start to like being alone, and that's what makes you valuable to other people. When you are complete, you draw in other people who are complete as well. You don't like turmoil anymore since you've grown out of it. You start to want peace, intelligence, kindness, and depth. Instead of being an escape from loneliness, relationships become a way for two individuals to share energy with each other while still respecting their own space. You begin to see love as a way to connect with others instead of as a need. Friendship is not about convenience but about growing together. Friendship is not an escape, but a source of strength for both people. Being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Being alone means being full, whereas being lonely means being empty. When you learn to be alone, your connections change from transactional to transformational. You don't want to take anymore, you want to give. You don't take away from others, you give them strength. You don't lose yourself in love, you become the best version of yourself. People will notice your calmness, contentment, and quiet strength. You're not magnetic because you're loud, you're magnetic because you're centered. According to Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, a wise person lives in harmony with nature, which includes human nature. Being alone helps you comprehend that harmony. It reminds you that the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. If that one is weak, all the other ones you make will fall apart over time. But if that one is strong, every link you build will be based on truth, peace, and strength. When you learn to be alone, partnerships stop being a way to get away from things. They turn into drugs. You don't look for people to fill a gap anymore. You choose them to share your wealth. You bring balance, not need, presence, not pretense, and tranquility, not need. And that's how you make a life full of people that don't wear you down. They lift you up. People that don't complete you add to your life. Solitude doesn't really keep you away from the world. It gets you ready to love it deeply, thoughtfully, and without losing yourself. Being alone until you learn to control yourself isn't about turning your back on the world. It's about getting ready for it. Before letting the world define your beliefs, feelings, and purpose, you need to take the time to figure them out. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The quality of your thoughts determines how happy you are." Being alone offers you the time and space to work on those thoughts and get rid of the noise so you can focus on what's really important. Stay alone till your mind starts to help you. Stay by yourself till your feelings don't rule you anymore. Stay alone until you can walk into any place and not feel like you have to impress anyone because you already have. Being alone is the first step towards strength. It's not being alone, it's being in line. It's the journey of becoming the person you were supposed to be before the world told you you weren't. So be alone, make yourself, take control of yourself, and when you finally go back out into the world, you'll move through it like someone who doesn't need to be discovered anymore, because you have already found yourself.